7 of Fix My Mix here on Creative Source. It's great to see so many of you in the live chat today. You are going to come in very, very handy for me indeed. I think we'll get to that later. First of all, of course, I'm going to say thank you to the sponsor of the show, DistroKid. You can see their link up there, and it's also down in the description down below. Of course, if you sign up for DistroKid with my special VIP link, then you'll get around, I think, 7% off of what is already an incredible price anyway. And we'll be talking about DistroKid a little bit later on in the show and talking about the great things that they do. I know that sometimes we seem to miss the beginning of the stream. Something weird goes on there. So if you're only just seeing me, welcome. Say hi to me in the chat. Let me know where you're from. It's always interesting to know which part of the world you're from. Now, I want to say, in case you don't know what's happening with this show, it is Fix My Mix. So this is where myself and usually 2 or 3 guests are going to have a listen to some of your music, which is admittedly by you in an unfinished kind of state, where you feel that you're almost there perhaps, but you need some guidance. And often it's really, really handy when you're mixing a song to let someone else have a listen to it, because you're too used to listening to the same song over and over again. You lose your objectivity. And especially when people kind of hear it for the first time or the first time in a long time, they get the benefit of that sort of those fresh ears, and that can mean that they can very, very quickly pick out things that are amiss with the mix. You can do this yourself by taking regular and long breaks, and it's definitely something I recommend. But if you send a mix into this show, you get the opportunity for some people to listen to it and give you some honest and hopefully constructive feedback going forward. Some mixes are great, and we can just say they're great, and hopefully I'll point out why they're great, and some need a lot more work than others, and we'll do that. We'll talk about that in a constructive way. Thanks very much to the people who have sent their mixes in. I do not notify people of which mixes I'll be using for these shows, so it'll be a bit of a surprise. If your mix hasn't been featured and you've sent it in, I've got quite a long list to work through at the moment, so do be patient. Doesn't mean it's not going to be on here. I want to say a quick thank you to the mods who are in the group at the moment. We've got DistroKid in there at the moment, and we also have, of course, the famous Mimo Japan. From different parts of the world. Mimo's in Japan, of course, and I think it's early there, the same as it is for me. It's 7 a.m. here in Perth, Western Australia, and I think Doug is on the later end of things, so yeah, interesting. Now, you will have noticed with the show title that I have a guest build on here. His name is Ron Ward. I've known Ron for around about 2.5 years or so. He's been on the channel before with myself and Pete Johns on a show. Haven't managed to sort of catch up with him since then, although, we're friends on Facebook and stuff. So I really was excited to have him on the show because he does a show which is, I've just got to double check the name of it here. It's called Homegrown Indie Live, and he listens to independent music on his show, and him and his friends offer some critique on it, and they just showcase some great music out there. Now, unfortunately, last minute, Ron has had to pull out because unfortunately him and his family have all tested positive for COVID, and they're not feeling all that well. I know his son is not feeling too well, and Ron himself not feeling too well. So he very regretfully had to pull out. Hopefully I'll get him on next week or something. I have, though, left a link for his channel in the description anyway, because I think it's worth you guys checking it out. He does a really fun live show there. He's a lot more professional at live shows than I am, I have to say. But yeah, just a message to Ron there. Hope you get better soon, buddy, and very much look forward to having you on the show. Now, I have put a link earlier on in the chat. I'm going to post it again now because I decided only about 10 minutes ago to do something really, really different. This could backfire on me, I don't know. Because I don't have any guests, I am going to post a link in here, and you can be my guest. If you fancy joining the show on video with webcam, then yeah, I'd love to hear your opinion on one of these songs. Now, I think it goes without saying, be careful with the swears. don't come on there naked. I do get a preview of you. Not that any of you would do that. Maybe some of my regular guests might do that if they had the opportunity. I hope I haven't given them any ideas, but I can see a preview of you. You won't get in if you're doing anything too outrageous. So yeah, I'd love to have someone in. We've got one person in here already. I can't see his webcam, so I'm only going to show someone with a webcam if they come in. But yeah, now I will say it's lovely to be doing Fix My Mix again, because recently I've been doing a lot of giveaways, and I love doing giveaways. It's great for you all to have the opportunity to win some fantastic prizes. But I'm also enjoying getting back to some normal shows and, talking about making music a lot more and that kind of thing. But I will say that I am due to pick a winner for my latest giveaway, which is for the Isotope Music Production Suite 4.1, and it's also complete, Native Instruments Complete 13 Ultimate, which is just an incredible prize. Somebody is going to be very, very lucky indeed to win that. I will be announcing that early next week, and if you're not a winner, you'll still have around about a day or so to actually purchase the special they've got on that at the moment. It's a really, really good special price on that. So just to let you know, you will have a little bit of time if you don't turn out to be a winner. Let me say hi to a few people who are coming in here. Nice to see someone from Italy. Let me try this name, Shahin Falco. Nice to see you in here. We don't often get people in here from Italy, so it's lovely to see that. We have Gilbert, who was here a moment ago trying to join the web stream. But he's from Los Angeles, California. They're nice, always nice to see people stateside in here, because that's why I do this show at this time, to accommodate you all. Lovely to see one of my good friends and often a guest on the show, Ricky T. Brown from the Home Recording Studios. And if you want to jump in, Ricky, be my guest, so they say. Always nice to have him around here. And I think we should just move on and have a listen to the first song. Now, the first song I'm trying not to give too much away about these mixes, but I think some of it's a little bit interesting before we launch into the song. One of the things I was going to talk to my guest Ron about was the fact that although he is American, he actually lives in Thailand, and I was going to hopefully discuss life in Thailand with him, but he's not here, so we can't discuss that. But I myself have been to a number of different countries in Asia. I've worked in Hong Kong. I've spent a lot of time in Japan. I've been to China. And one of the interesting countries that I've been to and spent a little bit of time in was the Philippines. I found that they are just an incredibly musical nation, very, very talented local musicians when I was there in Manila. Amazing voices, often great bands and all that kind of thing. So it's very, very musical country indeed. And that's my link to this first song, because the first song comes from a gentleman who calls himself, let me pull up his name here, who calls himself Manila Jones. The song is called Sunny Days. The composer was saying to me, at age 59, he said he sees a lot of videos of expats in the Philippines and he misses it. So I'm assuming that he used to live there and no longer does. So he's longing to return to the Philippines and live a simple life. And that's what this song is all about, Sunny Days. Quick notes on his setup. It's pretty simple. Focusrite solo, cakewalk, cheap bass, Glary bass, MXL 770 mics, stock plugins, and a couple of Isotope plugins. So not working with a huge amount of gear here. So let's have a listen to this song. I want to say up front, your input in the chat here is going to be super important. Okay, so I want to hear your opinions about this mix as you have a listen to it. Let's go for it. This, as I say, Manila Jones, Sunny Days.
Couldn't take another dance packed up my things and I flew away. The schedule's no appointments to get me down. My only concern, will I ever be found? And if it rains, don't matter to me. There ain't no place that I need to be. Now I wake in a sunny day, little less baggage and a lot less pain. The deeper heart is calling, the red horse is cold. Gotta spin these wheels before my day gets old. Spend some nights walking down the shore, trying to understand why you need it more. I call across this big blue sea, only the waves are answering me. Never thought that we would end, but now I know a broken heart can mend. Now I wake in the sunny days, can't remember why I came this way. The deeper heart is open, but the red horse is gone. I'll ride with San Miguel till we ride no more. All across this big blue sea, where only the waves are answering me. I crawl into the dark of the night, I'm afraid of the next fade by the morning light. I feel the sun, I feel that heat, I feel the sand beneath my feet. If I had 3 wishes, I'll stay right here. Live 1,000 lives, each one 1,000 years. And if it rains, don't matter to me. There ain't no place that I need to be. Now I wake in a sunny days, little less baggage and a lot less pain. Deep my heart is calling, the red horse is cold. Gotta spin these wheels before my day gets old. Ooh, in the sunny days, ooh, sunny days, ooh, sunny days. Now I wake in a sunny days. Now I wake in a sunny days.
Okay, I think it's a really nice start to the show. Like I say, it's 7:15 a.m. here. That was a sort of slightly gentle but uplifting start to the show for me, and I need waking up. I can tell you, I've been awake all night long. That's another story. We'll get to that later. First of all, this is a nice example. I'm going to say I don't know your proper name. I'll just refer to you as Manila, I guess, or the artist. That I feel like this is kind of, I've put in my notes 98% there, yeah. So if you're just starting out in mixing, I think a big chunk of it is just balance, yeah. And this has got the balance, I'm going to say almost right, okay. It's very, very listenable already as a solid whole piece of music. Nice songwriting, nice arrangements with the instruments. All of that is working really, really nicely. I had a little note there. If anyone used to listen to Chris Rea, not so much when he kind of got big with some of those more famous songs, but in his earlier career, it definitely had that feel about it. Someone mentioned in the chat there that there was a nice strat going on there, and it was very much the kind of sound that Chris Rea had there. I did think that in terms of things that could be improved with this mix, and I know this kind of went by everyone kind of quickly, but the acoustic guitar right at the beginning, there was an acoustic guitar. It was very, very light. I felt it could just be lifted up. There was acoustic and some electric guitar going in there. Again, this is a sort of a balance thing. I feel like if you have one thing which is sort of the main instrument, which I feel like the electric guitar was, it's still got to be supported by something reasonably solidly underneath in a lot of circumstances. So I think the acoustic could have come up there. Probably the biggest issue overall for me with this track of things that could be improved before you actually release it would be the drums. Okay, I feel like the drums were the thing that was lacking. Now, firstly, they were a little sort of light for me. I felt that if this song was released, sort of 30 years ago or more, it would have been kind of very suitable, that mix, for this era. But we've sort of changed things a little bit. I think we could do a little bit more punch from those drums there. Again, I also felt like this is going to be another sort of a balance thing, and I don't want to overemphasize this, but I felt like the vocals could just come up just a little bit. It's going to be a little bit of a theme of the show here, and it often is. I feel like when you record and mix your own vocals, most of us don't like the sound of our own voice, so it takes a little bit of courage to push your vocal where it really needs to be. And it's not much in this, it's just ever so slight, just up a little bit. Now, the reason I particularly say that is because I felt like there was some good lyrics in this song, but I was kind of straining to hear them, and I don't think it's a good feeling when you're listening to music to sort of strain. So that's why I feel that's my sort of indicator that, yeah, that needs to come up a little bit there. Now, that doesn't necessarily have to be with a fader. It could be with EQ to make the vocal just more present, okay? So it could be in the high mids or something where you just push it up a little bit. Now, and one last little detail, there was a sort of a break. I think it was sort of, when would the break be? Around about sort of 75% through the song. And after we came back from that break, I particularly noticed the hi-hat. Hi-hats can be a little bit of a problem at times. I don't know whether what sort of plugin you were using or what have you, but just the hi-hat felt a little bit kind of robotic to me. It sounded like it needed a little bit of more variation in velocity, okay? And that's a big problem with hi-hats, especially if you're using programmed drums at all. Can happen with live drums as well, but I really feel that that was a little bit of an issue. But I'm sort of reaching here for things to find fault with, to be honest with you, because I think overall this is especially a really nicely written song, nicely performed. The vocals sounded nice, the vocal harmonies were great, and the overall balance was pretty much there. Just a little bit of tweaking, I think, before you go ahead and release this. And please do go ahead and release it. Now, I'm just going to give my friend Mr. Ricky T. Brown a link to this show so that he can join. Quickly do that. There you go, Ricky. I'll put that in the chat for you. Now, as I say, this song is almost ready for release. Go ahead and release it. It's important to get your music out there. It gets you moving on to the next song or the next challenge, okay? So I think this is very, very close to being released. Now, if you are going to release your music, of course, then you may choose to use our sponsor, DistroKid. And there's lots of reasons why you would choose to use them. Firstly, they're a great price. Secondly, you'll get 7% off if you use the link. And also, they get your music out there to all of the different places you're likely to want to get it out to, including Spotify, iTunes, Amazon, Google, all of those places where lots of people listen to music these days. Let's have a quick look and see what's involved. If you do follow the link in the description down below, it's going to take you to a special page on DistroKid with this yellow banner at the top. That banner is letting you know that you're going to get a further 7% discount off your first year if you sign up here. And let's face it, it's already very cheap. If we scroll down, we can see that a year's membership is $19.99 per year for an unlimited number of albums and songs. And so long as it's your own music, there are no extra charges, and you get to keep all of the royalties from the various platforms. Platforms like Spotify, Apple Music, TikTok, Pandora, Amazon, Instagram, Tidal, iHeartRadio, Deezer, and more. I absolutely love the fact that that we get music from all different parts of the world sent into this show. I just want to remind you, if you do want to send music in for this show, there's some instructions for that in the description down below. It doesn't matter what genre you play. It doesn't matter how experienced you are, whether you've been doing this, it's your first song maybe that you've ever mixed and recorded, or you may have been doing it for years and years and years. And you know, we all need some extra opinions when we get towards the end of a mix. So, now, I did mention, I'm just waiting for Ricky to come in, so I'm going to waste a little bit of time, but just a little bit off topic. I did mention earlier to people that I'd been up all night. It's 7 a.m. here. I last slept around about 5:30 a.m. yesterday. I've been awake for a long, long time. And now some people were acting with a little bit of concern earlier on that I may have some issues. I really don't. Let me see if this is familiar to you at all. Once in a while, when I've had a long day like I did yesterday, I'll go and flick on Netflix. And that's what I did last night. And I broke the rule. I broke the cardinal rule. It was about 10 p.m. and I started to watch a series that had been released. You know you should never do this, yeah, because they do that clever little trick where they leave a cliffhanger at the end of an episode and it just says next, you know, it says next episode, and you just have to find out what's going to happen. And has this ever happened to you? Oh, I just absolutely... sorry, Ricky's just trying to come in. Help Ricky out with a link here, folks. Yes, been there, done that. There, absolutely. I'm going to just pop over to Facebook quickly and give Ricky this link. I'm just going to chuck it in there for you, Ricky. There you go. He's got it. Yeah, so that's what I did last night. If you want to know, the series was something called Taboo. I just find I'm a little bit biased, but I do find that the British just make the best drama series. Anything that's British, especially if it's a period thing or something, I'm a sucker for it. Peaky Blinders and all that stuff. So that came up last night. So this is all self-inflicted, folks. I have been awake for too many hours. I'm a little bit funky in the head, but I guess I'm doing okay. So as I say, we do get music from all around the world. The next piece of music that's been submitted is from a gentleman who is from Brazil, and his name is Carlos Simeone, I think. I think, in actual fact, talking about reading out names, I'm just going to put the name up. I've got the perfect person here to read out the name for us. I hope we can hear you. There
I can hear you, buddy.
Hey, mate, you're a pro at this, aren't you? You're a pro. You just jumped in there. Your sound is good. Your sound is good.
A man in need is a man. He's a man
you're
in
a
need.
lifesaver, and it must be so late over there as well. It's like 11 p.m. or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's the usual thing now.
Well, absolutely. Yeah. So, did you hear my little story about why I was up all night and Netflix and all that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Getting caught up in series. As if you recall, when I spoke to you last week, you were asking me why was I still up, and
That's right.
I got caught as well. I was watching Battlestar Galactica all from the front.
That's right. You
all
told me
over
that.
again.
Yeah, you told me that. Absolutely. Anyway, you're in time, Ricky, for the name to be read out. I was just about to butcher it myself, but why not let you butcher it?
This next song is by Carlos Simeone.
Hey, I think you did a great job there. Great job. So, folks who are watching in the live chat, I just want to introduce you to Ricky T. Brown here. I will put a link. I'll put a link for Ricky in the description down below later on after the show. He is the founder and leader of what I always say is the very best home recording studio Yes, a Facebook group that there is. I think around about 54,000 members you've got over there. Is it something like that, Ricky?
55 actually. We're on
55.
55.
Well done, well
Yeah.
done. And now, and I always say as well that I've recently opened a Facebook group. I think I opened it back in September. So fairly new, and I draw most, if not all, of my inspiration from the way that Ricky runs his Facebook group. It's
Oh,
very
bless you,
important to
man.
get that right, and the mood of a Facebook group is very, very important. We don't need any toxicity. Is that a word? Toxicity? We don't need that.
No.
We don't need the put downs for the beginners or any of that. Now,
No.
occasionally it leaks in, and
Oh,
unfortunate.
well, it's stamped on immediately.
Yes, that's the way.
You've got to
That's the
stamp
way.
on it immediately. No.
So anyway, let's we're gonna have a listen to this song now. Carlos said he's sending us the first and only song he's ever written. It's a one-man band job since all of the instruments and vocals were performed by him. Real drums, guitars and bass, VST piano and organ and orchestrations. One mic, which he used one mic on the drums in this, one microphone on the drums. This is I
Wow.
don't know if we've ever had that before. And it's the same mic that he used on the vocals. And I know that you're going to have a reaction to this, Ricky, because the mic that he used was a Behringer B2.
Okay. Yeah.
He has added some kick and snare samples underneath, but basically the drums are live. And the bass guitar plugged in directly into his interface. We've talked about that before. Very doable thing. You can get great results with a DI bass guitar. And also, his interface is a Behringer UMC 404 HD.
Yep.
And I know now I know we are going to listen to the song in a moment, folks. I promise you. But talking about put downs and snobbery and elitism and all that kind of thing. When it comes to Behringer, there's a lot of people who just right away they go like that, and I know you're not like that. Tell me about it.
No, I mean, personally, I've been using Behringer gear for like decades, and when I first started buying it, they offered a cheap enough solution kind of thing, and look, I know what you listen to the press and they're saying, their early stuff, it was really crap, and do you know something? I haven't had one item fail on me, and I've done some of my best work using Behringer gear, and I think it's like any other piece of gear. Once you know what its idiosyncrasies are, then you understand how to get the best from it. And I'm certainly a champion of people using Behringer gear because, okay, when you've got a bit more money, then you might spend on a badge kind of thing, which is fine.
Yeah.
Okay. But the reason why I like their products, because it's a gateway product to let people get into the game in the first place.
Absolutely,
Because,
yeah.
if you were told that the first microphone you needed to buy had to be something like a Calrec or one of the big German makes kind of thing, I mean, money no object, then yeah. But can you produce something worthwhile and listenable with their gear? And the answer is absolutely yes. And
Yes.
let me share something with you, because the first record deal that I ever got, I was using Behringer gear, mate. Yeah. And the
There you
thing
go.
is, it's all about the ideas and the execution of those ideas. Those are the most important things. It's not the badge on the gear. So listen up. Don't put them down.
I think my first condenser microphone was a Behringer C1. I think it's a C1.
Yeah.
And now, in fairness, I was moving up from, I think I spoke about this on the show last week, from a stick mic that I bought from Kmart, cost $14, one of those old computer ones. I recorded an album with one of those.
Yeah.
And then after I recorded that album, I thought I'd better get myself a proper microphone, and I got a Behringer C1. And it was a couple of years before I went to I think I got a Rode NT1A after that. Now, I will say I noticed the difference. Not so much in sound as in the noise floor was a little bit different between the two. I mean, the Rode NT1A is particularly quiet microphone anyway. But you're absolutely right, though. To be honest with you, when would I notice that little bit of noise? It would have to be like on an a cappella song or something, because
maybe
it's going to disappear in the mix, really. I'm not saying that you shouldn't try and get a gear which, you know, isn't noisy and all that sort of thing. Do when you can afford it, you know, make your audio as pristine as you can get it. But we're going to say the same old point, aren't we, Ricky? It's going to be about song, performance, you know, all of that, and then knowing your gear, you know, and getting the best out of the gear that you've got before any of that. Anyway, we've got something to listen to now, which is either going to prove or not prove our point, because so much of this song was recorded using Behringer gear. And just last one from Carlos, he's saying he lives in Brazil. He's a Brazilian, but he's not a native English speaker, so you may notice some weird accents since the lyrics are all in English. Also, it's his very first mix. He's been tweaking it for about a year and a half now. He's been tweaking it. The mixing process was based on my lessons. All right, I'm going to be to blame if this is... and he said, lastly, no mercy, because he knows he's still got a lot to learn. I think this is a really... I don't want to prime it too much. I think this is a really unusual song. That's what I'm going to say. Let's have a listen to it now.
Dark hazy night, there's no one around. A hush in the air, you can't hear a sound. Yet this voice comes in your mind, calling you from deep inside, like some kind of Mr. Hyde. You try not to hear when it says all the time.
Well, something really quite, I'm going to say a little bit unusual there. Ricky, I'm just going to leave it to you. I'm so glad you're here. I can have a little bit of a rest now. Might have a little nap.
um,
Go on.
do you know what? I really, really like that. He said that he's using a Behringer B1, yeah?
It was B2.
A
Yeah,
B2.
and I say just one mic on the drums.
This guy's a genius, mate. Listen, if you could do that with a Behringer B2, one mic for your whole kit, I think maybe the somebody mentioned it in the comments. I think the toms did jump out a little bit.
Yes. Yeah, and I agree with that.
And that is probably because he was using one microphone. Because had he, multi-mic'd his kit, he would have been able to get that separation and maybe pull them down a little bit, kind of thing.
Yep,
But
yep.
I think that's amazing. For a Behringer, a Behringer B2. So but the thing that impressed me most about this track was it was the ideas,
Yes.
like the backing vocals and the way that he used a stereo soundstage. So you're getting like question answer things happening in there, and the harmonies. Gosh,
That made it both kind of dated and not for me in a way, because I always feel like I'm going to get the time wrong, but let's say I guess it was mid 60s when stereo really came out, right, or mid to late 60s. And what people used to do then was like they went, oh, we've got this new toy to play with, and they put things right over there, they put things right over there, and they swapped them around. And now we're so sensible about it now, aren't we? We go, oh, it must be like realistic, and all the drums need to be panned.
Well,
and this was like a delight to the ears, especially if you've got headphones on, wasn't it? Because it was almost like very refreshing, because it broke some of the rules. Well, let's have that vocal harmony over there, and then we'll answer with it over there, and it's just so much fun then, isn't it?
Clever. That was clever.
Nice.
That was part of what worked for me. I mean, yes, I know what you're saying about the late 60s, early 70s, early to mid 70s. They were doing a lot of that kind of thing. I mean, even Queen, for God's sake, were doing that in Bohemian Rhapsody. But given Carlos's resources to make this track, I think it's absolutely amazing that he's being able to do that. So yes,
there were a number of people that felt that the vocals were maybe a little bit quiet. Did you?
Yeah, they did get a little bit lost on the verses. Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah.
I'm going to say it again. I said it earlier on in the show. Kianra in the chat there has touched upon this a little bit, and I think it's going to be a theme almost every week. That Carlos has mentioned, in a way, he's mentioned, look, English isn't my first language. That indicates to me that he's a little bit nervous about the vocals. He feels like people might criticize him for the vocals, right? Which are very Frank Zappa, by the way. I have to say, I was like, oh, this is so Zappa. Nothing wrong. I love Zappa, but it was stand out like that. But this is where having other people listen to your music is so useful, because as a vocalist, even for myself, often I'm going, oh, I don't really want people to hear that crappy singing I just did, right? It's like, I'll just put it down in the mix and compensate with some really cool instruments and things, right? That's what you tend to do. But yeah, look, if you are lacking in confidence at all, Carlos, I think the vocals were really good, fun kind of vocals, and great harmonies, nicely produced as well. There was a little bit of a nice airy top end to them, which I really appreciate. But carry on, Ricky.
Yeah, I was also going to add the instruments. Most of them were MIDI'd, apart from the drums.
No, he was saying, well, obviously the vocals, guitars were real, and bass was real, and real drums. Yeah, so it's just VST, piano, organ, and orchestration. There was I think like a trumpet right at the end, which came in there, which I thought was a little bit out of whack. It was
that's if I'm going to be really finicky, it wasn't the best brass sample that was
Mm.
used there. That betrayed its VST origins, I guess. But the arrangement, though, the arrangement was really good.
Cool.
Everything
Yeah.
was where it's supposed to be. Trust me, you know, I'm not just blowing smoke, Carlos. Yeah.
Well, no, I
If it
mean, this is
was,
what we're here to do as well.
yeah,
When we think people are heading in the right direction, we can just say to
absolutely,
them, "Hey, you're heading in the right direction," and
yeah,
hopefully for people who are listening who perhaps haven't done any mixing yet, again, it's going to come down to the similar components always of balance. But it's not just balance. This could be misunderstood. Yeah, balance isn't about having everything in balance. It's deciding what's my prominent piece,
yeah,
what are my supporting pieces, what roles does everything play, and then recognizing that those roles change throughout the song, which is where automation comes in, of course. But yeah, if you look at this, was generally a good balance, I felt.
mm,
Now, there's something sort of interesting which came up. I've touched upon it here. I think we've got this decision now when we're
mm,
mixing our songs: is do we want to be contemporary? Do we want to do what is expected at the moment for mixers, or do we want to do the mix the way we think we want to do it?
yeah,
The first song, to me, more so, was a mid-70s mix. If it's released in the mid-70s, perfect,
hmm,
and not probably punchy enough to be considered a contemporary mix. But I don't think you have to do that. I think you should
no.
do. What's your thoughts on that? Do you go through that process yourself at all?
Yeah, for me, how you mix a track, it's how to best express the sentiment of a song. I mean, yes, as a producer, you know, of course, you got to keep an ear down to what's current. But from it's this song is more about the songwriter rather than you know, a showcase for production skills. I like the work what he did there. It was really honest and it was different as well. You know, it had my attention from
Yep.
the first. You know, when I hear that piano come in, I said, "Oh, okay, I'm interested now." Yeah, I love a piano.
It was interesting, wasn't it?
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, you know, and it kept moving. That's what I really liked. You know, so Carlos, if you're
Right on,
wondering about whether
Carlos.
you kept my interest, you did, because you kept changing it up all the way through.
Now, I'm going to have a little bit of an old man rant here, and I try not to because who listens anyway? When you get into that, all the young kids
Yeah.
start going, "Oh, here we go. There's a boomer going off here." But I'm going to say that when I hear songs like this, it reminds me of just how bloody boring mainstream music is these days. I'm sorry to say it. Some of it's very, very good, and you get used to it, hearing the same four chords over and over again, and all the emphasis being on vocals and no instrumental breaks and no intros and things like that. So
No ad libs.
and no and nothing really changing. The way that this song went through different phases and they had to go from one to the other. It was really, really nice. And it just reminded me, I thought, it's like, again, especially with headphones on, my ears are being like played with here with
Yeah.
this, right? It's like, hey, let's have
It
some
was
fun
like
with some
that,
sound,
yeah.
right? Oh, what happened there? Oh, that's a bit
Mm.
different. Whereas I kind of feel a little bit like if I'm listening to mainstream music, my kids would kill me for this, but it's a little bit, oh yeah, it's nice. Oh yeah, I knew
Mm.
that was going to come. It's just a bit like that, isn't it? So that's my rant
Yeah.
over. But that's unfortunately true. But I have hope. I have hope, and I've said this before, but I've got teenage kids, and honestly, they don't really listen to mainstream music that much. They
Right, okay.
seek through Spotify, something
Mm.
different. They start off with mainstream, and then they seek further and further. So I just think that the music industry and radio stations continually underestimate people's ability to actually listen to something a little bit different. There you go. That's my
Yes.
piece, but I know you agree with me because you're an old fella like me. Dear me. But look, if I think this again, I think this is ready to get out there. Just some small changes, as I mentioned, a little bit of that. There was a little brass came in at the end there, Carlos, which was just too loud more than anything else. And as Ricky said, it sort of sounded very virtual instrument, whereas everything else sounded kind of natural.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
stood out a little bit. I do think it could do a little bit more on the low end of this mix that could be a little bit emphasized. I put in my notes here, now, Carlos, I don't mean push the bass up. I don't mean grab the bass fader and push it up. I'm talking about the range of the bass. You may have had a bit of a high pass filter going on there. And what I'm talking about is you could extend the bass frequencies a little, so they could just go down a little bit lower, at least on these headphones, which I listen to music on all the time. So that would be just a little bit there, Carlos. I think it could handle that. But yeah, that was about it for me. But yeah, go ahead and release that music, and when you do, it's going to be so easy. You're going to use DistroKid, and Ricky's going to point to the link for you, so you know where to go. There you go. Exactly. That's the one. That's the one, Ricky.
Mirror.
Well done. If you want to release your music via DistroKid, there's just a couple of things you need. First of all, the music itself. Here's mine in my DAW Cakewalk, and I'm exporting it to an uncompressed WAV file for best results. Now, the other thing you'll need is some artwork. I just grabbed an old photo which I'd taken on the beach, chucked on some text here, and that's what I call art. Then I went over to DistroKid, and I just have to fill in this extra easy form. It's a no-brainer form. You get helped all the way through with little hints and things. You can't really do anything wrong. You just go ahead and confirm a few things about your music, and then you just have to actually upload the artwork and the song itself, and DistroKid takes care of the rest. It's going to send it out to all of the best platforms so that people can hear and buy your music. I've got to say, talking about horns, and maybe people in the chat could, I was just thinking, what your comment there about the horns. What I often find when I'm trying out VST horns is you get them, and what do? You just play a few notes on your keyboard, and you think, oh, that sounds good. It sounds just like a real trumpet, because it is a real trumpet, because it's a sample of a real trumpet. But then somehow, for me, often, I've got to say, I struggle to get them in a mix. They can sound really like just that was a good impersonation. Just that's all you get. What do you I think in the music you produce, Ricky, that you use a lot more horns than I do. So have you got any tips there? Any libraries you want to give us tips on? And any tips
libraries.
for mixing them?
There are a few good ones. I think Native Instruments. What's
Session
it
Horns
called
Pro?
now? Session Horns Pro, yeah. But I think it's genre. You have to be careful what genre you're using a particular, VST with, because I find that, for example, if you were doing like big band,
Yep.
Session horns is quite good actually at doing that kind of thing. Not that I'm an exponent of big band, but the way that the samples or the articulations that they've included with it, they work really well with that kind of thing. But if you were going to use session horns on a classical piece, that's going to sound all wrong. It's going to sound
all wrong. Yeah.
So, but I think that's what session horns is meant for. It's a kind of
Yep.
that kind of thing. Yeah,
I found it's very kind of immediate, because you don't. What I'm going to say about session horns is you don't necessarily need to understand that much about brass arrangements. You can kind of be a bit of a keyboard player and get something happening right away. But I always try and emphasize to people, it's better to understand the roles that, and it's going to be genre specific, but the roles that different horns play. I personally prefer, I know that you get these sort of brass ensembles. I still personally prefer to piece them together myself. That's just me, with separates. I've been trying out, because I just reminded myself, I must dig into it a little bit more. But recently I've been trying out Big Fish Audio's vintage horns. And they're kind of really interesting, because their thing is that they're not perfect, right? They're specifically and on purpose made not to be too perfect. And I was messing around with a little bit of a kind of a look, not really reggae, but more of a ska kind of a thing. And that's where you want that kind of thing sometimes, where it sounds like a trumpet that might have been beat around a little bit. It's got a few dents in it, kind of, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I like that kind of thing. And so that, if anyone wants to try those out, I definitely would recommend those. But yeah, I find horns on the whole pretty hard to fit into the mix because I'm not very experienced with it. But yeah, you know what happens with me in a song like we were just listening to there is if you can't get it sitting in there nicely, consider taking it out completely.
Yeah,
is
sometimes less is more. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, let's go on to our third song. I'm so glad you're here.
That's all right, man.
I don't know what would have happened to me. Now, look, I'm just going to say, if anyone wants to jump in, who's just from the chat there, I'm going to post the link again here in the live chat.
They all scared.
Come
on, join the party, man.
You've got about 4 minutes to get in here and say live on air. There you go. I'll post the link in there. Now, if you want to join in, anyone could join in. Anything could happen here, Ricky. But come in and let us know your thoughts to this third song. Now, this third song, up front, I'm going to say, because there's no point in me beating around the bush with this. This needs a lot more work than the other two, and so I've tried to mix it up a little bit with some that are nearly there, and some which I feel need a bit more work. Now, the song itself, though, when I'm talking about ranting about music, it's also interesting the subjects of song, like the lyrics of songs. We've become a little bit narrow on that, I feel, as well, in mainstream music. I'm going to keep saying mainstream music because there's lots of great music out there in the world which isn't mainstream. You just got to go looking for it. SoundCloud, places like that, you go looking for it. But the subject matter of this is the song is called The Beacon Keeper, and it's part of a concept based on the Spanish Armada of 1588. There you go. Who writes songs about that anymore?
Bloody hell, yeah. That's far out, man.
I love it. So we're not going to see Beyonce touched on this subject for a while, I don't think. Probably. But I do like that. That was one of the things that attracted me to it because I like a little bit of history, and I like the fact that someone's going to tackle it and do that sort of stuff. Anyway, now this is from Phil Lean. As I say, it's called The Beacon Keeper. I'll just pop his name up there so that everyone can see it. And he's saying he's mainly a guitarist, singer, and he plays a little bit of keyboard. He's played with several bands through the years and been self-employed with a solo act, playing lead guitar and singing along with his own programmed backing tracks. Loves to compose his own music too, and although he's a keen guitarist, he's performed mainly rock and pop songs, and always liked different styles of music. Having said that, he says there's no guitar in this one, although many of his tracks will have guitar when they're completed. So let's have a listen to this song. Again, it's a little bit different, I'm going to say, and it's called The Beacon Keeper.
Into the night he comes, riding as if he were mad. Looking into his face,
Hmm.
Okay, so something very, very, very different there, wasn't it, Ricky? I'm going to leave this one up to you, buddy. That's why you're here.
Yeah. Now this one, it's there are moments when it reminded me of how recently departed. Oh, what? Sorry, what's his name again? The king of operatic rock. He died recently. Help
I'm,
me here, man.
I'm trying to help
Help
you out
me.
here. Oh, are you talking about Meatloaf, are you?
Meatloaf.
Yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
That's what I was looking
Yeah,
for. Yeah,
I
Meatloaf.
hadn't picked that, but yeah,
Yeah,
all right.
there
All
was a
right.
bit of that. There was a bit of that in there. I
Okay.
I felt what he was trying to do with it, but um, I think where it didn't quite work was the execution. Especially with the arrangement, because with this kind of thing, you really need to keep it interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And the accents with the drums, I mean, okay, there were parts where it was okay, but the pump, 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 pump,
Yeah.
pump, and I'm thinking, no, man, I'm not feeling that.
That was a bit
I
sort of
am,
harsh for you, was it?
yeah,
Yep.
I'm not feeling that. No,
Yep.
because you could add impact to the lyrics in a different way, but it was a literal interpretation of the lyrics there, and musically for me that was like, no, you needed to do something else. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
okay, do it once if you're going to do it, but don't do it again.
Okay.
Um, is what I would say
Mm.
say to him. And then the brass sounds. I mean, it really reminded me of the early romplers. You know, like the Roland
Yes.
D110.
Yes. Yes. I had something in my
Oh,
notes about that. You've picked
yeah.
it as a brass sound. I just kind of had the synth sound there.
It would have been better had he chosen a synth sound for me, because then it would have made it a little bit more prog rock, if you
Yep.
like, rather
Mm-hmm.
than trying to emulate, use a poor brass sample
Mm-hmm.
instead of using a synth on a brass setting. That's
Yep.
that would have made all the difference. And then there
Yep.
was a long section, about a third of the way through. You had a long section where it was just, I think he was trying to. There was like a string arrangement going on in there and
Mm-hmm.
stuff, but it didn't have the right articulations to hold the part down for me.
Okay. Well,
Yeah,
I
it
just want
was.
to say to Phil, that Ricky's given you some honest feedback there. It's the
What
harshest
do you
feedback
mean,
we've had.
Jimmy?
No, this is good. This is why we're here. Now, Phil, personally, I'm just going to quickly say that you mentioned you're a guitarist. I felt that there could have been guitar in there as a lead instrument, even for those stabs and things that were happening,
Yeah,
rather than the synth. That's just my opinion. I would experiment with that feel in that mix. Get your guitar out. You're a guitarist. I think, and in terms of actual balance, we talk about balance being the most important thing. Another thing, Phil, just if you do have that sound or use a similar sound, it was just too loud. Simple as that. It was just too loud in the mix, that kind of synth sound. But there's some good stuff in there. Love the idea for the song. The vocal
mm,
performance was great, was fun. Lots of nice harmonies going on
yeah,
there. I love the drama of there was some timpanis in there. It was almost like a stage show like kind of thing in there, which was
yeah.
kind of
It
really
did remind me of
interesting.
that. Yeah,
Yeah.
musical. Yeah.
But it was a little thin sounding overall for me. Needs a bit more quite a lot more in the low end. But anyway, enough about what I think. Stuff what I think. We've got some other people to ask them what they think,
Hey.
Ricky. And let's bring the first of those up. We are going to go straight over to Eeny, Meeny, Miny, Mo. Let's go to this gentleman here. I'm not familiar with his name, but I'm going to go there anyway. Let's go for it. We have someone called Rhett here. Rhett, oh, hang on, he's off the screen, so I'm going to just jiggle things around here a little bit until. Oh, there we go. G'day, Rhett.
Hey.
Nice.
Hello, Rhett.
Hello, can you hear that?
Yes, we
Yeah,
can
we
just
can
hear
hear
you
you.
there, Rhett. Nice. Rhett, you were saying in the chat here that you are from the Mix Club. Can you tell me about the Mix Club?
It is basically a website that I got, and I got a YouTube channel. I basically do a lot of live streaming on
Oh,
just
cool.
mixing stuff like that, and
Awesome.
did front of house for years, and a lot of film production music and stuff. And I kind of sold a big collection a couple years ago and took some time off. And then the pandemic hit, and I kind of like spent most of my money on stuff. You don't see that stuff coming. I'm going like, no, I'm going to die. And so
Nice,
I
man.
just
Well,
seen that.
look, let's when you get a chance, please do put your link to your channel in the chat there, and I'll try and update the description a little bit later on so that everyone can get to that as well. So, what were your thoughts on this mix? We've had Ricky on here being the nasty judge here. He was going pretty hard there. What did you feel about it? Yeah, Rhett?
To be honest, I kind of blew it because I was sitting here trying to figure out which volume I needed on.
Fair enough.
That's kind of my life story, I think.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, we're in there always trying to get, especially on computers and stuff. So, but let's talk a little bit about your. You said you do live streams. So, what do you kind of do on that show? Where do you get the music from?
It's usually a lot of stuff that like I have produced for like film and stuff, and I take the tracks and then I'll just bring them up and show people how to mix and stuff like that. And I did something the other day that was kind of like, my first school would have been, like live sound and production. And I was kind of showing people that why levels are so important, because a lot of times if you're doing a national, the headlining group, they're going to get all their sound check done and everything is going to be, really catered to. But then sometimes you back up and you got the opening act coming on. Well, they're lucky if they even get to do a sound check. A lot of times they just do levels. Yeah. So I was trying to, show people how, I'm going to bring the kick, the snare, and go all the way through my mix. And I'm going to, after I get the snare sound, I got my level, I'm going to mute it. Then I'm going to go to the kick and do the same thing. And when I'm all done, I'm going to kick all this on, and you can kind of see how the mix just immediately, it sounded great. And that comes from years and years of kind of fire by your seat, seat of your pants. Cause it's, so that's something that I think is important is, levels is where it starts in getting your mix. And a lot of times, even in live, you don't always nail it, and it makes it really tough to, get the mix happening.
It only occurs to me because it's been quite a long time since I've done any live mixing. I did some years and years ago, but it's interesting, isn't it? Because you have to act in that moment, right? It's happening. You're not going to sit back and listen to it over and over again. You've got to get that balance there pretty quick in that situation. Do you think that doing that helps you in the studio, though, that it enables you to make decisions better rather than puzzle over things forever?
Yeah, I think so, 100%, because if you are, at a live show, you got to get that stuff spot on. Mm-hmm. When you're in the studio, I have a hard time seeing the line in between the two. The only problem that I have as coming from a front of house person in my younger years is I still, we're always talking about, send your mix out to as many people as you can to listen to it. Because the first thing that I'm going to get slapped on is low end. Yeah. And being a front of house guy, when you go to a show, if the low end's not happening, it's your crowd's not into it. And so that's my big fight in the studio that I don't think I'll ever not fight, is just, I love low end, and I also come from an analog era. So, I definitely got to watch that, but I think the studio and live, but I also come from a time and place where we cut a lot of stuff off the floor. And so I'm really, trying to learn more and more on virtual instruments, which are high, they're kind of tough for me, and the older you get, the more forgetful.
Well, it's absolutely brilliant to have you on the show here, Rhett. I'm fascinated. I feel I want to talk to you forever, but we do have someone else who's joined us over here, and I can't really leave him out, to be honest with you, because he's a bit of a sort of a legend in the community.
That is
and
fine. I didn't even know I seen the thing on there, and I thought, you know, what the heck? I'm going to join this and see what happens.
That's
worked.
awesome.
Hey.
Well, this gentleman is not only moderator, but he seems to be everywhere. He answers questions on my Facebook page. He gets in there and answers questions on YouTube. And his name, of course, is, well, we know him as Mimo Japan, but he's Mimo. And I'm going to just bring him straight in here. Mimo, nice to see you, man. How are you?
Yeah.
Good morning.
What time is it there in Japan, Mimo?
Oh, you're in the future. No, I'm at 9 a.m.
Okay.
And
Now-
I am. Yeah, please go ahead.
I want to cut to the chase here because I saw you kind of bobbing your head around a lot during this mix. Let's talk about this mix first a little bit.
Yes.
And now, Rhett, what Mimo, kind of an expert in virtual instruments because he mostly does virtual instruments. He does these mega productions using virtual instruments. He does a very good job of it, really good job of it. And I feel like he's going to have some interesting opinions about this piece of music we just listened to. What's your thoughts there, Mimo?
Yeah, well,
Oh.
no, I'm just kidding.
Oh, we've got a joke. We've got a joke.
Inspired by you. Yeah, first of all, I had to, it's early morning for me, and of course, the Ricky guy is so blending, and so I had to use the shades.
Yeah, I was wondering. Yeah.
Yeah, just kidding. No. I was doing around here, and I couldn't hear stuff, and I also couldn't hear myself. And then I noticed, there is no cable in the mic. And, well,
my
it's
goodness.
early morning, right?
Who
So
knew he was such a comedian? Hey, who knew?
Yeah,
Who knew?
he's a regular.
Very clever.
all kinds of stuff happening here. No, I found that music quite interesting, but as you know, that everything which could be said about it was already said by you two guys, or by you three guys.
Mhm.
So there's not much left for me. Yes, I think it's, as you said, it's maybe in an early stage, but I think it's very interesting to try around with many different kind of like instruments and see what comes of it. And maybe that is the stage where that the creator is at now, because the timpanis, I found it was quite powerful, and it was adding some, maybe it was of course too much, but I think to have this idea and to bring in different kind of stuff and then fine tune it to taste, it is a good start.
Yeah, right. Okay. Yeah, I mean, again, just coming back to that, and I think you're probably in agreement there that the synth sound that was in there, the brass synth sound, this is a tough one for me because it was sounding, I'm going to say, a little dated. It was sounding as what did you say, Ricky? One of the ROM sounds.
Yeah, one of the early romplers. Yeah.
Yeah, it had
the-
that sort of
the,
sound to it. Now, that's an artistic choice, of course. If someone wants to have that sound, then they should have that sound. But I can't help feel personally that it was kind of fairly harsh, a little bit jarring. And so perhaps Phil, the artist there, as Mimo suggested there, try some different sounds, try some different things out. If it's been recorded with MIDI, of course, that's going to be a very easy thing to do. But again, I would pull out the guitar. It's interesting, this idea, though, of, and I'm interested to hear Rhett's opinion on this as well. Personally, I think as a band member, right? So I think back to the days when I was in the band. When we're in the rehearsal room, it's about arrangement, yeah? It's about, we want some guitar to come in here. We want this to come in here. And we built pieces up in terms of arrangement. So if we wanted more emphasis, or we just wanted things to sound louder, we had more instruments playing. And then into the verse, maybe we'd have less instruments. And I kind of almost think you've got to get that right before you start on the mix even. The mix is kind of refining that. How do you feel about that, Rhett, being more of a mixing guy?
Yeah, you really, arrangement is like king of everything. And, I also performed, and I was a front man as well. And
Yeah, right.
One of the things I think that is really so important for people, and it's usually hard, and it took me a while to get this, but is if you're weak at something, you need to kind of, own up to that. And when I owned up to that and I put a good rhythm section together and started hiring better musicians, and all of a sudden, Jerry Turtley, the bass player, was a musical genius, and all of a sudden we started working on harmonies and arrangements, and all this stuff started becoming tighter, and the song started getting better. And as far as myself, without that influence, I'm very much a 145 type of achy breaky heart type of guy. I mean, that's just the way that I think. And Jerry was definitely, Steely Dan and the Eagles and all this stuff. So he had a great music knowledge for arrangements, and it just, as far as even like mixing, once the band starts coming down with these killer arrangements, my job as a sound engineer or even in the studio becomes you're doing less. Everybody thinks automation. Man, if you got killer players, they're doing the automation as they're tracking.
Absolutely right. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, very much so. There's definitely something to be said for performers. Good performers. I mean, I'm not just talking about people who can sing well, or what have you, but people who have microphone technique, people who know how to build drama with their instruments, with their voice, and add dynamics in that way. It leaves so much less for you to do in terms of actual mixing, because the performers are creating the dynamics of the song for you in a way. There you go. That's my opinion. But
and it's amazing that sometimes the space, if you're in a live venue and it's a big job, just the space in between what they're doing is like, it allows you as an engineer to be able to fine tune the delay, the verb on something. And, it's just everybody doesn't always have to be bashing unless, that's the style of music you were doing. But my group wouldn't have went as far as it did if I didn't have the people that, really understood music and kind of told me just to turn down.
So cool. Look, I just want to address Phil directly, who sent this song in, because I feel like he's had a rough ride from us, because we've definitely, I guess we've all kind of felt the same. So I guess the good thing there, Phil, is a little bit of consistency in the feedback there. I'm going to say a lot of this came down to probably that keyboard sound. Ricky brought it up first. I'm in total agreement, and also I think Mimo is sharing that. I know Phil has said in the chat there that he did try guitar, and it didn't seem to suit. Maybe a blend of the two, Phil, maybe a way to go. I'm just throwing ideas off the top of my head here, but that's probably the main area that I'm going to say you need to look at with the mix of this piece of music. I think you've got a little way to go on some of the other stuff, but good on you for trying to produce something which is really interesting, a little bit different, and also just in terms of actual performance. You're obviously a very musical person. That was all there, so that was all good stuff. But yeah, I hope this has helped in some way. I don't want it to demoralize you. I think it's a good enough song that it's worth you putting that effort in and trying to take some of this on board, Phil. And as I've been saying to people, I haven't had anything back yet, but as I've been saying to people, I'm always happy to listen to updates of these mixes as well. So if you find 4 or 5 weeks down the line, Phil, you've had a bit of a go at this, submit it again, and we'll see how you're going with it. It'll be really an interesting exercise if we do that. Now, we're going to be closing the show off, guys. Thank you so much for joining me. Rhett, for sort of randomly coming by and joining the show. It's just such a fascinating conversation there. I have to get to know you. It sounds really interesting, and love to put some links to your work. Mimo, it's not always nice to see you. I've spoken to you on video before. Just thank you so much, Mimo, as well, for everything you do. I can't say thank you enough for what you do for the community. It's massive. You always seem to be there tidying up my messes, which is really, really nice. So very much appreciated. And Ricky as well, who is an unplanned but regular guest on the show. So very, very wonderful to have you on, Ricky. Such a great guy. And to anybody who still wants to send their music in, do follow the instructions down below. I very much look forward to hearing your music and having some guests on who can hopefully help you to improve your mixes. And finally, I just want to say thank you again to DistroKid. Ricky, if you could just point to them, just point straight up there. Thank you for sponsoring the show. Thank you so much. And the biggest thanks, of course, goes to people in the live chat. Thank you so much for being here. You're just wonderful. You make all the difference. And don't forget to hit that like button, of course, because that's going to help me out. And if you're watching on the replay, would love to also hear your comments down below, as well as would be gratefully receiving your likes as well. I'm going to go off and have a sleep. I've now been awake.
Wait a minute, it's morning there. I'm the one that's supposed to be going for a sleep.
I've been awake for 26, 27 hours. I don't know. It's not good. It's not good at this age. I could do it when I was 20, but not anymore. But yeah, anyway, I'm going to sign off. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching the show, and we will be back next Thursday, Friday, with
Take care, man.
more
Thanks for having me.
My Mix.